Hi, Todd Dunn here at about 1:45 on September 24th, 2018. It's Monday afternoon. I'm here today aboard my 1936 powerboat Tortuga because on Wednesday, the 26th, at about 10:30, we're going to haul the boat out for the season. So I have some work to do. I have oil change and winterization of systems. I'm not going to change the oil today because we probably will take the boat out briefly this afternoon, a little later, but I am going to winterize the domestic water system and the head. So that's what this video is about, winterizing the domestic water system and the head. Anyway, let's get to work. Okay, I'm down below in the main cabin and getting ready to start doing the water system. I'm just going to walk through exactly what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is drain the water tank. Underneath the settee I'm sitting on, there's a 26-gallon bladder tank, and it doesn't have a drain. So what I'm going to do is just open the tap, turn the water pressure switch on, and pump the water out of the tank. That's probably going to take about 10 minutes. When that's done, I still will have 6 gallons of water in my water heater, so I want to drain it as well. So I'll get down underneath the cabinet where it's located and open up the drain, and I'm going to pull the inlet and outlet water hoses, which will let air in and will let water drain out more quickly. One of the things I don't want to do is put the antifreeze that I'm going to use to winterize the system into the water heater, because it takes forever to get it out. So what I'm going to do is, while the water heater is draining, I'm going to connect the inlet and outlet hoses for the water heater together so that it is completely bypassed. When that's done, I'm going to come over here, open up the access to the tank, pull the hose off of the pump, and put a new hose on and stick it in a gallon of antifreeze. I'll then turn the water pump on and pump antifreeze through all the water lines, but it will not go into the water heater. So I'm only putting antifreeze in the water lines, and I'll probably be able to winterize the entire water system with 1 gallon of antifreeze. Now, another thing, what antifreeze am I using? So let's take a look at the antifreeze. I'm going to explain what the options are and why I've chosen this particular option. Okay, this is the antifreeze I've chosen to use. It's just an RV marine antifreeze. There are basically, for doing a water system, 2 options if you're going to use a commercial antifreeze. You can use a pure propylene glycol potable water antifreeze, or you can use a potable water antifreeze that is a combination of propylene glycol and ethanol. The problem with the ethanol bearing antifreezes is they do tend to dry out any rubber gaskets that you have in the system, and you'll have to rehydrate them in the spring when you recommission the system before the system will hold pressure properly and perhaps not leak. So I always use a pure propylene glycol antifreeze, which is what this is. The brand doesn't matter, but the chemistry does. Okay, this is the cabinet that houses the water heater as well as my fuel filters and my bilge pumps. So I'm going to open this up, and we're going to start to drain the water heater, and we're also going to take it out of the pressurized water system by disconnecting both the inlet and outlet hoses. There's the water heater, 2 Raycor 500 MA fuel filters, and down further, you can't really see them, are my 3 bilge pumps and 3 float switches. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do here is open the pressure release valve, just to let any excess pressure run out. A little water got on the cabin sole. And we'll open the drain valve here. Start draining water out. This is a 6-gallon water heater, so it does hold 6 gallons. Takes a while to drain out until I take this top hose off. Then they'll start coming out pretty quickly. Whenever I take a clamp off like this, I always tighten it up just enough that it won't move so it doesn't end up way down in the bilge. Now we have to pull this off. This is always difficult to do, and sometimes I just cut it off. See if I can deliver it. There we go. Now the water will come out a little bit more aggressively. And this is just going to drain into the bilge, and my bilge pumps will pump it over the side. Now this is the inlet hose. There we go. Now the water will go out. I have this set up so the inlet is on the bottom and the outlet is on the top, so that I'm pumping cold water in the bottom, hot water out the top. So we're just going to let that run out. And while that's happening, I'm going to bypass the water heater by putting a connector between the two hoses. Okay, at this point, I took a little break so you didn't have to listen to me cursing about putting this fitting, which is always tight in these hoses. But the two hoses, the inlet and the outlet for the water heater, are connected together. And as long as I don't put any significant pressure on here, this will allow me to pump antifreeze through the system without putting any in the water heater. So the next step is to drain the water tank, which I'm going to do simply by turning the water system on with my taps open. Turning the water system on with the taps open is pretty easy. I'm just going to open the taps. I'll put that in the middle so it's both hot and cold. I'm going to go forward to the head and do the same thing and open the tap up there. Here we are in the head. I just have a single tap here. I'm going to open it so it'll drain water out. I'm also going to make sure that I open the seacock so that the water will go over the side. Okay, we're back in here. The next step is to turn the water pressure on. And again, because the taps are open, this shouldn't develop any significant pressure. So there we go, the water's running, and then I'm just going to let that run. It might take a while, so I'm going to stop until it's finished. While the water is pumping out of the tank, I'm going to open up the access to the tank itself, which is underneath this settee cushion. And just open it up. There. You can see my tank fill. And under here is my water pump. I'll show you that in a second. As you can see, the flow of the water has decreased dramatically. It's starting to spit some air. So I think I'm just about finished pumping water out of the tank. And this water is going over the side via my sink drains. So none of it's getting into the boat except for any spatter from the sink. Okay, so we'll just let that run until it stops running completely, and then we'll be ready to actually winterize the system. That should be in just a couple of minutes. The system is dry, so I'm ready to actually do the winterization. So this is a pretty simple procedure. I'm going to open a jug of antifreeze. I think I can probably do this with one jug. I'm going to disconnect the inlet hose to the pump and put another hose on there, like that. And this hose is here just for winterization purposes. I'm going to stick it in here right down to the bottom. And at this point, all I have to do is run the pump to pump antifreeze through the lines until it comes out of the faucets. I'm going to do it for the hot water and the cold water in the galley, and then the cold water in the head. It's a pretty straightforward procedure. And while I'm doing that, I think I'll set this down in here so I won't have any problems with reaching the bottom of the jug. Okay, here's the galley. I've got the faucet set to hot and it's open. I've closed the sink tap in the head, and I'm just going to turn the water pressure on. And we will let it go until we have pink antifreeze coming out. Shouldn't take long as we fill the hoses all the way to the tap here with pink antifreeze. There's a little air. There we go, pink antifreeze. And at this point, I'm going to switch over to cold and run it again. We'll get some pink initially, go back to fresh water, and we'll run for just a little while, and pink antifreeze. So that's that. So I'll turn that off, and I'm going to go up and open the tap in the head, and then we'll turn the water pressure back on and run it until I have just pink antifreeze coming out. Here we are in the head, and there we go, pink antifreeze. Didn't take long, so I'll go shut it off. So you can see it's shut off, and I'll leave the taps open now for the winter just so that I don't have any issues with them closing up. So that's all there is to winterizing my domestic water system. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the hose out of my jug of antifreeze and pump the remaining antifreeze out of the lines so that I'm basically just have air in the lines. So we will pull this out here. And turn the hot water on. It'll pump the antifreeze out. And I'll go up here. There we are. Just getting air and a little foam. And I'll do the same back here. Close that forward tap while I'm doing it. This pump can be run dry. So there we go. We're blowing the antifreeze out of the line for the cold water side. There's not much left in there. It's mostly just a little foam. The reason I do that is that the less antifreeze I have in there, the easier it is to flush the system out in the spring. Now I'm onto the hot water side, and we'll just blow the last of the antifreeze out of there. Yeah, it shouldn't take too long. Hot water side's a little bit longer because it has to go through the bypass where normally we connect to the water heater. And we're just about done. So, that's it. The water system has been drained, and I've run the non-toxic propylene glycol antifreeze through the lines and the faucets, and then used the pump to blow out as much of the antifreeze as I could to completely empty the line so that I'll have the minimum amount of antifreeze in there, and it'll be easier to flush out in the spring, and won't matter if it gets really cold because the lines are mostly filled with air at this point. Okay, the next step is to winterize the head. All right, now I'm going to winterize the head. Here's the jug of antifreeze that I was using for the water system. You can see it took maybe a little less than 3 quarts of antifreeze to do my water system, and only about 20 minutes altogether, most of which was waiting for the pump to empty the tank. So what I'm going to do here is pump antifreeze through the head. And the way I have my head set up makes that very easy. I have my head set up here. This is the inlet line for the head. It goes over here to the drain for the sink. And normally when we're using the head, what I do is I close this C-cock so the drain now does not go over the side. Instead it goes into the inlet for the head. And to winterize the head, what I'm going to do is simply pour antifreeze in the sink, and so that I get all the lines winterized, I'm going to pump around a gallon of antifreeze through. So I'll fill this up pretty far. There we go. A little bit more. There we are. That's a little under a gallon, but it should be enough. Just have to fill up the head with antifreeze. This is a Wilcox Crittenden Skipper 2 head. Yesterday I took the boat over to the pump out and pumped the holding tank out, so it is empty. And now I'm going to pump antifreeze from the sink into the head and then into the holding tank. So here we go. And we'll take a look. You can see it's gone out of the sink now. Let me just pump that down. And that's it. The head is winterized. That's the easiest part. Now all I have to do is remember not to use the head because it's winterized and put away for the winter. Alright, I'm back here at the water heater and I'm going to close the overflow valve and I'm going to close the drain valve. The inlet and outlet connections are still disconnected, so the tank is open to air and it's essentially empty. There may be a little water left in there, but not much. So freezing won't harm it. Here are the inlet and outlet hoses. I'm going to leave them connected together so that in the spring I can fill the water tank with water and then flush the entire system out, with the exception of the water heater, with fresh water until I no longer have pink antifreeze coming out. And when that's done, I'll connect up the water heater again and we'll be good to go for another season. That's that. It's a pretty straightforward procedure. It doesn't take long. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed seeing how I winterize my water system and head. And at this point, those systems are done for this year, and I won't touch them again until the boat is back in the water next spring and I'm ready to commission the water system. And I'll probably make a video then about how that's done. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, please subscribe to my channel and ask all your friends to subscribe so I can build my subscriber base. Thanks again for watching.